Hi friends, this is Krish the Urban Naxal. Friends, today I am going to talk about this scam which is not just all India in its scope but global. Or at any rate it occurs in many countries, and I am going to name a few countries where this exact same scam is happening. The scam, and I am talking about real estate, and my subscribers, many of my subscribers are going to be quite familiar with this in the context of Mumbai and Maharashtra and a few other places, Bangalore, etc. But they are not going to be familiar with the larger ramifications or the larger spread of the scam. So I am going to describe the scam now in its wider scope. This same scam, real estate scam, which is being conducted in India routinely, is being conducted throughout the world in many places, and I'll tell you which are the places where I know it is happening. One is it is happening in the Middle East, mostly Dubai. Second is it is happening in London. I know this. It is happening in London. Not sure it is happening in the US. I think it is also happening in Hong Kong. Now, these are some of the places where it is happening. Now, let me explain how the scam is done and what is the scammy part of it. First of all, the process is of marketing under construction property. The most number of reports I have received are, of course, from people who are living in Mumbai, living in Maharashtra, living in the places where I am familiar with. But I have also received such reports from outside India, people who are living abroad. Now let me explain how it works. First, you declare a project, an under construction property. Never mind whether you have the capacity to complete it or not, whether you have the capacity to complete it within the schedule, within the date, whether you can deliver on a certain date which you commit or not, is not important. What is important is to create a perception that there is this opportunity waiting for people to get rich quick or to attain their dream house and live happily ever after. The key word is dream house. It could be dream land. For example, the urge to own a plot of land can be a very powerful motivating factor. The urge to own a villa or a farmhouse and live happily ever after retirement, or the urge to own a second home when you already got a house in a busy city, so that you can dream of kicking back, going on holidays, you're lying down and forgetting about the world for some days or weeks or months. And then sometimes there is the opportunity that is offered by the sellers. I'm not going to say builders because they don't necessarily have to build it. I'm familiar with some people having sold it without wanting to build it. And the intention of doing this, of selling something without necessarily wanting to build it, is to make you into a contractual debtor. Now, what is a contract debtor? First of all, let us look at it. What is a debtor? A debtor is a person who owes money to someone else. If I owe you money, I am your debtor. Simple? Very simple. Now, there can be something called a judgment debtor. What is a judgment debtor? Suppose you successfully sue me for defamation, and then suppose I have to pay you 100 crores, which I don't have, or I may have, but I am not able to raise immediately. That makes me your debtor, judgment debtor. A court judgment has made me your debtor. So you have a judgment debtor. Now let us talk about a third kind of debtor, which is a contractual debtor. What is a contractual debtor? A contractual debtor is, I have booked a flat under construction. You have promised to give me a flat by the end of 2026. In December 2026, you say you are going to give me a flat of a certain dimension, let us say 1500 square feet. Towards that, I agree to pay you in installments, let us say 3 crore rupees. Now, I have become your contractual debtor because the installment period is going to be defined by the contract. The contract will say whether I will have to give you the money every 3 months, every 6 months, every 1 year, or based on your demands. Your demand may be based on the stage of construction, or may be based on some other logic. Any kind of logic, any kind of rationale can be used. But the overall effect of this is that I become your contractual debtor, in the sense that until December 2026, I am supposed to pay you X amount of money, and that is my debt. Have you given me anything? No. Have you given me a loan? No. What have you given me? You have given me a promise. You have given me a pie in the sky. You have given me a dream house. Will the dream house become a reality? Not necessarily. Or you have offered me a villa on a plot. Maybe you have sold the plot to me, and then you are promising to build the villa, and you have cast obligations on me. We will get into that later about how this trap, the land and the villa trap, works. But right now, let us talk about the overall picture. The overall picture is under construction property. I have agreed to buy an under construction property from you, and you have agreed to give it to me at a certain date, but in the meantime, you have imposed on me the condition to pay at regular intervals. And I am now your contractual debtor. There is another dimension to this. There is another twist in this story. The twist is that without accepting any contractual obligation from your side, that is, without the builder or the seller accepting any contractual obligation whatsoever, he nevertheless imposes a debt on you. Now, what kind of a debtor are you if there is no contractual obligation for you to pay that amount? This is the scammiest part of it. This is the heart of the problem, and I am going to address this first of all, because this is the thing that I have spent the last 4 or 5 years combating, listening, hearing, going to court, getting sued. I have been sued at least twice for bringing up this particular issue. The issue is like this: there is no contract. There is no contract between the buyer and the seller. In fact, there is something that I will call a negative contract. A negative contract meaning the seller, the property seller, is emphatically saying, there are no contractual obligations. You have given me the money. I have not accepted any contractual obligations at all. Mind well, this happens in India, this happens in Dubai, maybe other places also. This happens in Dubai. Indians are sold property in India. The people who are sitting in Dubai, in Bahrain, in Saudi Arabia, in Oman, they are sold properties in India, whether it is land or whether it is flats, under construction properties. But Indians sitting in India are also sold properties in Dubai, or people sitting in Dubai or people sitting in Singapore are sold properties in Dubai also on very similar terms or almost the same exact same terms. So what am I saying here? There is no contract. There is a repudiation of contract. The seller says, I am not contractually bound to you. I am not bound to give you anything at all. You are giving me money so that I may consider you for a contract. I am considering you. At my will and pleasure, I may endow upon you the right to enter into a contract with me. But if you break it off from your side, I am going to forfeit the money that you're giving me. And that money can be 10% or more, 10%, 20%, 30%, anything. Sky is the limit. In India, we have a new law which limits that to 10%. We had the new law is Real Estate Regulatory Act, RERA. Since 2017, it has limited people, limited builders from seeking more than 10%. Before that, we had a law in Maharashtra called MOFA. I think similar laws existed in some other states. For example, in Karnataka, they had a law called KOFA. KOFA is Karnataka Ownership Flats Act. MOFA is Maharashtra Ownership Flats Act. Some other states also had the counterparts, which prohibited builders from taking more than 20% without entering into a contract. Now, mind well, corporates in India are expressly forbidden to raise deposits. Nevertheless, they manage to raise deposits in various ways. They are very creative about it and they manage to raise deposits and huge amounts of deposits from large numbers of people. This is one sneaky way in which they are doing it. They are selling people a dream house and they are not entering into a contract, and they are entering into something that is a repudiation of a contract. It is not a contract. In India, it often goes as an application form. The flat buyer pays some kind of earnest money called token or booking amount or expression of interest and fills up an application form. He fills up an application form which is not a contract. That application form contains conditions which are adverse to him, which are horrible for him, which basically says, I understand that if you wish, you will sell me the flat. If you wish, you will not sell me, and I'm okay with that. Nevertheless, I'm giving you my money, large amount of money, the kind of money which takes people months and years, sometimes even more than years, decades to save. I'm giving it to you, I'm entrusting it to you, but if you choose to cancel, you will repay the money to me. If you choose to not enter into a dealing with me, you will repay the money. If I cancel, you will not repay the money, you will confiscate the money. In India, they use the word forfeit, but what they mean by forfeit is actually you will confiscate my money. Same thing is happening. Indians abroad are being sold properties in India and they are completely clueless. They are completely clueless about the fact that they are not entering into a contract and their money can get taken away from them. Now, this is one aspect of it. The same thing is happening in, let me tell you, London, possibly other cities of UK as well. Is it happening in Europe? I don't know. But I know about London property and it's happening. I know about that because people have told me about it. The way it is done, it is couched differently. The language is different. The way it is done is very simple. People, when they sign up on an application form which contains terms and conditions, lose sight of one basic factor, which is they lose sight of the fact that one person signing does not make it a contract. One party signing, only one side signing does not make it a contract. For it to be a contract, both the parties have to sign. This is one part of the thing that people seem to just forget about. They feel, oh, I have signed, I am now bound. I am bound by my word. You are not bound. You are not contractually bound. There is no contract. Second mistake that people make is to assume that money can be forfeited according to the policy of a company. So you will frequently hear this phrase, it is my company's policy not to refund the amount. My company's policy. Fact of the matter is, unless there is a legislation supporting such a policy, any policy, there cannot be a policy that overrides the law of the land. And generally, in all the countries that are which follow the British law, I am going to be very specific here, British law, because I don't understand other law elsewhere, the kind of laws they may have elsewhere. French law may be different. British law, there is something very clear. If you have not entered into a contract, you cannot forfeit amount for breach of contract. If there is a breach of contract, you may forfeit an amount. If there is no breach of contract, there is no contract, you are not allowed to forfeit or rather confiscate the amount from the other guy, the amount given by the other guy. If that amount has been given, even if the guy has gone and signed an application form with some punishing terms and conditions, nevertheless the law requires that you will refund that amount to him because you have not entered into a contract with him or he has not entered into a contract with you. This is the law, and this is a law which is followed anywhere where the law and jurisprudence resembles the English common law and the English laws. India is one of those countries. I believe Pakistan is one of those countries. There are a number of countries. If I am not mistaken, Dubai also has shades of that, though I could be mistaken, and maybe they are following Islamic law or some such thing. However, they are using this model, and with this model they are taking away your money. Now, if you are in this situation, how do you come out of it? There are some solutions to this. One of the simplest solutions. Now, let's be very clear. The company wants to take away your money. The law, in some sense, also supports the company. It supports you, but it also supports the company. There is a contradiction. How does it support you? It supports you because when there is no contract, any money that you have given to the company without a transaction, an actual transaction having taken place, which is the same thing as a contract having taken place, that money is kept in trust with the company. under the assumption that the contract was going to happen, under the assumption that the transaction was going to happen. Transaction did not happen, so that money has to be refunded to you. Now, when does the transaction happen? The transaction happens when you accept all the terms and conditions that are there in an agreement which you will sign. It may be called a sale deed, it may be called an agreement to sell. There are a whole lot of terms and conditions. Typically, we have terms and conditions running into over 100 pages or 200 pages. It will contain exactly how many square feet the flat will be. It will contain a lot of other details like the dimensions, the location, the shape of the flat, how many floors the apartment block is going to have, how many towers there will be in this project, what are the amenities, and so on and so forth. It's a big agreement. If you agree to each and every one of those terms and conditions and sign up and say, yes, I agree to each and every one of these terms and conditions, then after you sign up on and initial each and every page of it, then you register the agreement, then you have entered into the transaction for the under construction project. Until then, essentially you are outside the transaction, which means the transaction has not happened, which means that money which you have given to the builder prior to the transaction has to be returned to you, because the builder has failed to enter into a transaction with you, has failed to enter into a contract with you. Hence, there is no breach of contract, no forfeiture. But a lot of the companies in India, in Dubai, in Hong Kong, if I'm not mistaken, and in UK are taking away people's money without such a contract. I will explain more about this in another video immediately. I'm your friend Krish the Urban Naxal. Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan.